Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Movers and Shakers virtual networking event. This is our third Movers and Shakers event. Unfortunately, the last two have been virtual, but hopefully next year we'll be in person. I'm Cecile, and I'm the coordinator for the Maji Center. And I want to begin first with our land acknowledgement. At NATE, we honor and acknowledge that the land on which we learn, work, and live is Treaty 6 territory. This place is a traditional homeland for the First Nations and Métis peoples. And today, we are all part of this treaty land. The traditional name of this place is Amiskwachi Waskigan, which we also call the city of Edmonton. I'm very, very happy to have Jay Downton with me. Jay has spoken with the Maji Center every year since I started working at NATE, so since 2018. He's given up his time, even though he's busy man with Oilersnation, Oodle, Noodle, Little Brick, and many, many other projects along the way. So we're talking about networking. And I'll say, Jay, when did you realize that networking was important?
I think I'm going to get really ahead of myself here and just kind of start with a lesson. And I guess, being in business for, I guess, as long as I've been, patience is very important in networking in terms of realizing its benefits. And for me, first starting out in business, there's nerves, there's anxiety to put yourself out there and, share your story and share your vision or dreams with people and be vulnerable with people. But the quicker you got comfortable with doing that, you started realizing that you could form relationships with people and start having good quality conversations at events and future events when you run into people and be able to make lasting impressions, because that's also one of the things, right? It's cutting through the noise to keep on people's radar as you're trying to build out your network. But also it's realizing, like, and this is something that I learned along the way. It's not about going into networking trying to unlock quick wins either. It's about relationships. And for me, looking back, it's the patience in the long game kind of being deployed towards networking, where you start realizing its value. And I've got a few interesting circumstances from networking that affected our business in a positive way. And one of them would be when I was a banker at ATB. I played in the West Edmonton Business Association golf tournament to represent our branch, because I was a business banker. And I got paired up with three people, had really good conversations throughout those 4 hours, to later having follow-up conversations and meetings throughout the years, to one point some going dark and not even hearing from one another for 3 or 4 years. Then all of a sudden a circumstance comes where this individual has been paying attention to what we're doing, is interested, wants to invest, wants to come in and help drive one of the functions for our business. And that was 8 years after we played golf together. So when you look back at networking, you really understand its importance, and you don't understand what you don't understand is when it's going to connect. But it's important that you go out and forge those relationships, and you provide value to those relationships as well, to want to have that reciprocated.
Right. And so, like, I know that we've all been to schmaltzy networking events where somebody's running around handing out their business cards left, right, and center, and you feel like you need to go home and have a shower afterwards. and clearly what really works is making true human connections.
100%. And it's about having a legitimate conversation, and not just keeping it all at the surface and trying to build rapport and form those bonds. Because the more you put into those conversations, and listening as well, and legitimately and genuinely listening in these conversations, and be able to pull and prove that you're listening in future conversations, to really, like I said, build those connections, to want to it's you want to create a situation where that the other person wants to help you because you've helped them in some way, shape, or form. And that can come in a myriad of different ways. From just listening to donating some time, supporting something they're doing, having them reaching out for a favor for something and delivering on it. All that stuff is super important in kind of establishing a strong network, because if you invest that time and energy and effort into that, there is legitimately dividends to be paid in the future. You just don't know when it's coming, but you've earned that ask. It's
Right.
building up equity, right? Ask equity, I guess, if you want to call it, to be able to lean on someone if you do need help with something, and they're gonna respond for you because of what you've already given them, and whatever it is. And
Right.
it's interesting how that works.
Yeah. I've always taken the approach that I'd read a book by Keith Ferrazzi, Never Eat Alone. He talked about never think when you're meeting somebody, what are they going to do for me? But always think, how can I help them? And I think that some of our students struggle with that because they think that there's no way that they could help anybody, like that they're just students. And I always think that you never know who you can connect somebody to, or how you can help somebody. And I know you started your entrepreneurial journey while you were at NAIT. I believe it was with the pub crawls,
Yes.
right? And so did networking play a part in that at all?
Oh, 100%. That's the only way we could fill our buses. It's a Herculean effort to get 200 people at that time, to without social media, barely even cell phones. I'm dating myself now. To build that network, that sales pipeline that you need to do all that stuff, and that came from a lot of that was relationship based. Like it was identifying key people that had their own networks, and
Right.
then creating an arrangement to incentivize them to then want to go and bring their network in, and then you go, and when they're there, you go and provide a good experience, and now you've converted them into a customer.
Right.
And then you keep doing that, and that's what allowed us to grow from something we did with 40 people to 200, to sometimes we did big ones that were like 500 people. And it was strictly networking, because that's all we had. We had no budget.
Right. And I mean, you're not a shy guy, Jay. I mean, were you ever shy, or was that a struggle for you at any point in time?
I think I overcompensate by not being shy because I am shy.
Ah, okay.
And I think it's and I think it comes from a lot of practice, because I remember, like, even like going to networking events, I just, like, the anxiety would just take me over, because I'm like I'm just, who wants to hear me? Like,
Right.
I'm gonna go and get in someone's face and just tell them about me, and they're gonna care, and I'm like, and what am I gonna give to them in return? But it's, to your point earlier, like, it, you don't know what needs to be given. Like, it could be something just as much as having a real conversation is what can have you connect with someone. That's just something
Listening.
that's super shallow, and listening, exactly, right. And my mindset, now, and as I learned kind of throughout my journey, is, similar to that quote you said, is to the mindset is to make sure it's going into things giving more than what you're trying to get.
Right.
By giving more, you're just going to unlock the get. It's just going to happen. And giving can be, like I said, a myriad of things. It could be time. It could be making a connection. It could be a conversation. It could be, it could be financial, but, like, it can be a bunch of different things. But it's just a mindset, and it also doesn't you know that mindset also subscribes to the long game kind of mentality of all this, because, like, going into networking, like, and that was the one thing, in my early days was, well, I need a network because I need to, like, make stuff happen yesterday, because everything was on fire at the time, because you're just starting out, so you feel like you need immediate help. But that's not the approach to take. It's actually quite off-putting if someone's coming at you and with immediate asks and whatnot. And so it's making sure that practicing patience and making sure that you're providing more value than what you're hoping to get in return.
Right. And would you say, because I know, I mean, I followed you for several years, and follow you on LinkedIn and on Instagram and Twitter. And I know that you are constantly giving back to your community, either through Oodle Noodle or just personally yourself. So has that played a role in your success?
Um, it's hard to say that absolutely, because it's a form of networking. I'm also meeting tremendous people, and with especially on the Oodle Noodle side, we work with so many great local organizations and programs,
Mhm.
and you go in, with a kind heart, and you have these nice and warm and fuzzy conversations, and it's amazing, kind of the long tail relationships that form from all that, and all that stuff just leads to more opportunities for both sides, and opportunities can lead to business, but it's all of that grassroots stuff goes a long way. But for me, you really build really we've built some tremendous relationships that have unlocked more conversations with people outside of our network, and it's kind of interesting how it snowballs from there. So it's been super important for us, making sure that giving and donating and community investment is part of everything that we do, because it gets us in front of these amazing people that we normally probably wouldn't see because they're busy working in their worlds. uh,
Mhm.
and then we also get to unlock and talk to their networks, but it really kind of just reinforces and provides um, a why statement. This is now talking outside of networking, but like, why should you support our business versus someone else's? And there's going to be people that are going to be defending that on our behalf because of our relationships with them. And that's super important because word of mouth is very powerful. And it's a long tail. Networking is marketing. It's long tail marketing, and it's
Mhm.
genuine, and it's authentic, and it's sticky
Mhm.
as well.
Awesome. And so you think back to, your journey, and you probably, I know you're very humble. You probably think you're still developing and you're still learning every day and whatnot. But um, having watched people at networking events and things like that, what would you say would be the number one thing that you've seen as a big mistake or no?
Oh, I guess just moving too fast. In trying to get in a like, yes, networking, there's agenda, but like the agenda, it's like
It's to really get to know people.
it's really to get to know people, and like, you do business with people with you're comfortable with, you have conversations, you take meetings, you take advice, you'll meet with a connection of someone if you've built that it's relationship. So it's you really got to go in with building relationships. Yeah, going in to try to be like, okay, I gave out 100 business cards, I'm gonna go pump that into a CRM and I'm
Hmm.
crushing it.
Hmm.
Well, you're not going to really get too much from it, and you're not going to leave a very positive experience with the people you're meeting. So like, for me, it's just going in and trying to have genuine conversations as best you can,
Hmm.
the circumstance you're in. It's not that you can go sit down with someone for an hour. That's sometimes that's not possible, but making sure that uh you know
Sorry, did you
oh my
get that too? Did you get the
yeah,
Amber Alert?
that's unfortunately an Amber Alert. Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately it is. Everybody check your phones in case you see somebody that the police are looking for.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Genuine, genuine and authentic. That's the big thing. If it's that's the only thing that's going to translate and that will ever resonate with myself.
right. And even so, would you say, like, do you use, I mean, you're very busy and very connected. But when I'm talking to students, I'm like, if you meet somebody at an event like that, yes, connect with them on LinkedIn after, but then don't just leave it at that. Like maybe circle back in a month and try and have a virtual one-on-one with that person and actually get to know them a little bit better and build on that, and then have conversations, because you can't just meet somebody and be one and done.
No, no, you can't be afraid to ask, and especially if there was a conversation had. Like, I love when there's someone that I meet and we had a good conversation, and to use the term shoot your shot and send a DM on Instagram or on LinkedIn. Like, I love that moxie, and I can't say every time, but there's a high percentage chance I will engage back with that person, as long as everything's genuine.
Yes, exactly. And I
If
mean,
it
I think that
came from
most of
coming
us
at
can.
me telling me something on the next one, whoa, it's like, okay, well, we're not there yet. Like,
Yes.
we're still getting to know each other.
Yes. So I've had people reach out to me on LinkedIn, and then And then the next message I get is them trying to sell me something. And my next reaction is immediately to disconnect.
Yeah.
Because I want to be connected with genuine people who genuinely care to make a difference in this world and are truly good humans.
Yeah, 100%. So it goes back to building relationships and being patient because it's not quick.
Okay, awesome. Any last minute tips before we hop into the main room and start networking?
Like I said, the things to focus on when networking is, like I said, genuine, authentic, and it's a long game. Building a network and managing and trying to unlock value from a network is a long game, and
Mhm,
that's okay. And you need to be okay with that.
mhm,
Um, and when those relationships pay off because you've given value to this person or entity, and now they want to give back. It feels like a big win. And it's funny when you go to reverse engineer it and be like, oh, well, that's because of this little mixer I was at. Then I ran into at a hockey game, and then like I've got there's so many weird stories throughout our journey where like these random little like, and sometimes it's serendipitous or maybe it's the universe, whatever whatever
mhm,
you're into. Like it's funny how it kind of all comes to be and how those you manage and those opportunities and engagements and
mhm.
how in the long term how they shake out.
That's because you truly connected and you truly listened. And so when you do bump into somebody again, you can bring up the conversation that you had, or you might not remember the name they talked about. You'll say, but you were talking about, and then they're like, yeah, I was paying attention.
Mhm. And one other thing, sorry, before we jump in, like, uh, networking, especially in this new age, also isn't about just getting in front of people. It could just be like LinkedIn's a powerful tool, creating content. You never know who's watching. That's like it's an intangible form of networking, but like it's something we put a big focus on and just casting a net of attention because you never know who's paying attention, and then from there a networking opportunity or a conversation can be unlocked to then unlock great opportunity. So you just never know. So there's so many different forms of networking these days, and putting yourself out there. If you're not comfortable with it, doesn't mean you have to go and physically put yourself in front of someone. We've got these beautiful platforms now that allow us for distribution. So
Mhm.
there's ways to get in front of people as well to build to help build relationships and get your story, your authenticity out there.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so on that note, I think we're going to end the talk and start networking. We'll be doing 20-minute rounds and then switching. I see that some people have been sharing their LinkedIn profile in the messages. Do feel free to do that. When you send a message to somebody asking to connect, I suggest adding a personal note saying where you met and why you'd like to connect, and then following up afterwards. Everybody have a great networking session, and we'll see you in the main room.